This is a weird looking absolute value equality. We've not seen one like this before, where we have the absolute value expression on the left, but we have an expression on the right as well. So if we just keep the same rules in mind, we're able to solve this problem. There's also this funny looking phrase. It says check for extraneous solution. So extraneous has the word extra in it. So we might have some extra answers, and those answers will be non-answers. So basically when we solve for x, the answer might lie to us. So we have to check it. This isn't the same thing as checking your problems when you were in 3rd and 4th grade, going back and redoing them. This is checking to see if we have a false answer, which can happen on some of these problems. So the first thing you need to remember to do is you want to get the absolute value alone. It's always the rule with these. You get the absolute value alone. So here, the absolute value is all by itself on the left side of the equal sign. So then we go to rule 2. Okay, we have to set up case 1, which is as is, and case 2, which is opposite. Again, same rules apply. So let's go ahead and set those up. So I'm going to write down here so I'll have more room. Case 1, which is my as is. So I have what's inside my absolute value, which is 3x plus 2 is equal to 4x plus 5. And then I have my case 2, which is opposite. So I'm going to take the opposite of what's inside the absolute value. So the opposite of 3x plus 2, and that equals 4x plus 5. Okay, so now I'm going to solve case 1, and then I'll solve case 2. So it really doesn't matter what I do first, just as long as I get the x's on one side and the numbers on the other. So let's subtract 3x from the left. Remember, that turns into a 0. So then I'm left with 2x equals 1x plus 5. Okay, so I'm down to 1x. Let's get this 5 over to where the 2 is. So when I add that together, I have negative 3 is equal to x. So that's one possible answer. Okay? So remember, with equalities, they're always or situations. So I'm going to move over to case 2. I distribute my negative. So that gives me negative 3x minus 2 equals 4x plus 5. So now this is very similar to case 1. So I think I'm still going to go ahead and I'm going to add 3x to both sides. So why am I adding 3x to both sides? Because that will give me a positive x. If I subtract 4x, that would give me a negative x. That's the only reason. It doesn't matter. So this zeroes out. Then I have a negative 2 is equal to 7x plus 5. And then I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides of my equal sign. And I get negative 7 is equal to 7x. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide everything on both sides of the equal sign by negative 7, by 7. And I get negative 1 is equal to x. So that is my other answer. Okay, so either these are both right, one is lying, or both are lying. So I have to test it. So I'm going to go back to my original. So I have to test the solutions. By the way, anytime you have an absolute value expression equal to an expression, you might have an extraneous solution. So I'm going to test solutions. So the first one I'm going to test is where x equals -3. So I'm going to put that into my equation. 3 times -3 plus 2, that should equal 4 times -3 plus 5. So that gives me absolute value of -9 plus 2 should be equal to, well, that's going to be -12 plus 5. So this gives me the absolute value of -7 should equal, well, -12 plus 5 is -7. But remember, absolute values can never be negative numbers. If I were to take the absolute value of -7, I get 7. So 7, that's the question. Does 7 equal -7? No. So this one here is not a solution. Okay? This is what's called extraneous. Word extra. You don't need it. Throw it away. It's lying. Okay? So let's try this one where x is -1. So again, take my original absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals 4x plus 5. Let's plug in -1 and see what happens. 3 times -1 plus 2 is equal to 4 times -1 plus 5. So let's go ahead and do the math. So it's going to be absolute value of -3 plus 2 is equal to -4 plus 5. -3 plus 2 is -1. -4 plus 5 is 1. Well, that's good. Absolute value can be a positive number. The absolute value of -1 is 1. 1 equals 1. So this here is true. So that means that this here is the only solution. So you have to be careful when you're solving absolute value equations where you have an absolute value expression equal to another expression, because there's a possibility that one of those answers is lying, and you've got to figure out which one it is.